Hello and welcome to Decoding the New Economy. Today I'm joined by Ian Gardiner, former CEO of Viocorp. Thanks for joining us.
That's all right. It's normally the other way round.
Indeed it is. To kick off with, what does Viocorp do?
So we're an online video platform. So essentially we're a software business that uses our technology to connect content on one side, such as this video, with viewers in the other. So if it's got a screen and an internet connection, we'll deliver to it. And if the content can be anything, so a movie, a CEO address, kids' mobile phone content, you name it. So we connect the two. Easiest two words of describing it, it's like a corporate YouTube.
Right. Now, one of the things that I've come across with Viocorp is mainly with the corporate sector using it for streaming things like AGMs and that sort of thing. Is that your main business?
Yeah, look, corporates are definitely the main market. That's where the money is. You know, so and it's an artificial distinction, but we sort of break it down to people who want to make money from the content, and that might be a broadcaster like Channel 7 or ABC to a degree, and people who don't want to make money but still want the content distributed. Now that tends to be our market, because that is your corporates, your government departments. No one's going to pay to watch their CEO.
Sure. You know, well, maybe.
Well, unlikely to do that, but you are going to pay potentially to download a movie or to accept an advert in front of it. So we have some customers in that space. So for example, Hoyts, we're going live with Hoyt Stream shortly, but most of our work comes from about 150 corporate government licenses that pay us an annual recurring income to access the software, publish and manage and distribute all of their video content.
So how did the idea come about?
Oh god, it's a long time ago. It was 12 years ago. So, you know, I came to Australia with an Australian wife, and you know, I was 30 at the time, and you know, in hindsight, it feels quite young. And it's funny thinking back that time, because you know, you don't have any fear really when you're making a decision like that, but I would have been more careful, and if someone was asking me advice about should I move to Australia and start my life there, it's like, well, make sure you're organised and make sure you've got a job. I mean, I basically turned up not really knowing anyone, not knowing my way around, and not actually knowing what I was going to do for a job, which in hindsight was just colossally stupid. But you know, I had a visa and I had my wits about me, and I thought I was pretty good. So anyway, I fell in with another Scotsman, Ron McCulloch. He had, you know, a string of bars and nightclubs that he was running, and he had some software that he was thinking about installing kiosks for that. And I said, look, you know, he was a Scottish entrepreneur with a family that moved to Sydney, and I just wanted to meet him. And I said, well, why don't we get together and you can tell me about your journey so far. He told me about the software, I told him about my background, and there was quite a good match. And I said, look, there's a business within this, not sure what it is. You know, the big vision, you know, every entrepreneur needs a big vision. Our big vision was that in 20 years time, from 2002, all video was going to be delivered over IP networks. I'd seen what happened with, you know, that was at the peak of Napster and Limelight at the time. So I saw what was happening with music, and I thought that is for sure going to happen with video. And it's much more difficult, much more challenging. Files were huge at the time. But we were right. I mean, we're 10 years into that journey, and you know, that's really where the world's going. It took us a bit of time to work out the business model. You know, back then, we're 3 years before YouTube when we started. So I spent, you know, I got the scars in the back from 3 years of going around every corporate in town trying to explain what the hell online video and streaming was. You know, because it wasn't an easy question to answer back then. So we spent the entire time explaining, you know, what it was and why they should do it. You know, if there was a subtle shift between then and now, we're now explaining how to do it rather than why to do it. And that was transformative. And to be honest, the best thing that ever happened to us was when YouTube came along. Because suddenly we had a reference point that people understood. So whilst in the face of it, YouTube should be a scary competitor, they were actually a fantastic enabler of the market. It took the market from being tiny, nascent, misunderstood to being a reference point. So if you went in and suddenly said, we're like a YouTube for corporates, so like, come in.
It validated the marketplace. So there was a bit of a pivot in there too. So you started off with kiosks and moved over to streaming.
Actually, no, when I started, there was a pivot, but it wasn't around the kiosks. The concept was kiosks, but it was never actually built into that. When we started the first 3 years, it was client-side software.
Right.
So we had for the techies out there, we had an ActiveX component that sat on a Windows machine that drove Windows Media Encoder that ran locally.
Yep.
So you'd record the video message locally on the machine, it would capture it and encode it locally, and then push it up to the server.
Right.
But it was all client-side. The pivot, I mean, that actually never was going to work.
Right.
If you remember back then in those early days of Microsoft and Windows environment, it wasn't a pretty place to be.
No.
So we actually needed a server behind the firewall in the corporate. All the firewalls were shut, all the techies didn't want to know, all the CEOs didn't want to do it. We had every reason backed up against us for why it didn't work. And so the webcams were crap. The quality of streaming that you could actually get was terrible. It looked like a postage stamp with a Thunderbirds puppet in it with the lips out of sync. And there was a lot of that stuff and you're like, this is just awful. But what happened was that we pivoted to become a full service provider. So we said, look, the effect of this is fantastic, but people aren't using it because the technology is weak and the behaviour is a challenge. We're going to take care of it. So we went in, we took cameras like this, we filmed it, we edited it, we encoded it, we put it in a nice looking web interface, and we delivered it out to the end users across what we now think of as a CDN. We iterated, so we delivered synchronized PowerPoint, we worked out how to do it live, and we built a nice little 10-person profitable business within that full service environment, but it wasn't software. And then the final pivot was to realize that the video production wasn't the challenging piece, and we weren't going to go out and invent the next iPhone or Samsung telly. We wanted to focus on what we call a piece in the middle, the way that you manage, encode, package, deliver the content, and that was the software we built. But we built it server side. It's a modular service, it's software as service in the truest sense of the word. So that was 6 years ago, and we've really just built it up ever since.
Now you've had some changes recently. You've moved on as CEO into alumni. What would you call yourself now?
So I'm now called founder and director.
Right.
Look, it wasn't. It wasn't a move that until the board mentioned it to me probably late last year. It wasn't something we'd really considered. I think last year was tough. We had a lot of technical challenges. We redeveloped, basically re-engineered from scratch our entire video platform. So everything that we run the business on was in this one platform. We said, look, we need this to be scalable and more feature rich and all the rest of the things that we know. But that's a case of port, I think, that you got to pay for. You got it?
Kill that, I'll kill that.
You got to press the button top. So, so the reality was it was a challenging year last year. So the technical side was not as slick and efficient as it could be. So we just spent most of the year just what felt like firefighting, dealing with problems with the platform, with the process, with customers. And I ended up getting further and further away from the stuff that I'm actually good at and enjoy doing. So you end up as the sort of founder entrepreneur in a place that is not good for anyone, because you're not doing the stuff you like doing, you're not doing the stuff you're good at, and as a result of that, the business doesn't go in the direction you want. And it's when it was pointed out that maybe if you bring in someone who is actually skilled at running a business at scale, we've got 60 staff, we've got international presence in Singapore, we've got partnerships, we've got lots of customers and products. I mean, there's a detailed process with that that's difficult. So how are we going to get from that bad position to a better position? And it seemed to make sense. It feels like a natural transition for most businesses, where they go from founder entrepreneur to professional CEO manager. And I had a good chat with Greg. He's a great guy, super smart, and it's complementary skill sets. I mean, he said I couldn't start a business and take it to where you've got it, and I couldn't run a major division of Microsoft and Apple in a big fit. So that's what we need now, and now I'm back doing what I like doing and I'm good at, which is it's around the product, it's around the customers, it's around innovation. And to be honest, that's my wife and kids. I mean, they're seeing a distinct change in my demeanour and enjoyment of what I'm doing. I think it's been a good move all around.
So when the board came to you and said that, when I talk to founders, they're often quite taken aback by that, and they find it quite a blow to their head. Did you find that as what are they saying this for?
Yeah, I did, but to be honest, that was partly around the messaging. I think it probably could have been done slightly more subtly, but you know, again, it was the right message, but maybe it could have been delivered slightly better. But you know, to be honest, you know, I'm a big boy, so I didn't go home crying about it. I was just annoyed to start with.
Right.
But what I had to do, which took me a little while, was to separate the emotional response, which is like, I'm feeling rejected and this isn't the right move, to a pragmatic response, which is, I want this business to be as valuable as possible.
Right. So where do you see Viocorp going in the next 5 years, Ian?
Look, I mean, we're pretty excited and positive, as you'd expect. You know, so within, however you cut the numbers, and we've analysed the market in different ways, we think that the market for video platforms, you know, in the way that we license out to corporates, government, is growing about 30-40% a year. So we're at least going to match that within the core Australian business. But the main engine of growth, which is great, and we're really happy with that, and that really is sustainable. It's high margin. It's, you know, we're at the point now where the engineering costs are fixed. So any incremental income on top of that is actually goes straight to the bottom line.
Right.
There's a fair amount of large fixed costs, so it's, you know, it's the holy grail with software as service businesses. You fix your engineering cost, you keep the marginal cost very small, but when you get beyond the revenue line, you're very, very profitable. So we're just beyond that point now, which is
excellent.
Great. But we're really seeing a lot of growth out of Asia. So we've done a deal with Singtel. It's a commercial deal, it's not an investment. You know, there's an analogy there with Telstra taking a pretty big stake in Uyala, which is a US-based competitor. You know, so Singtel's pretty excited. They've white labelled the product. They've called it the Singtel Media Delivery Platform, and they're going to take it out and sell it to their customer base around Asia. Or specifically starting in Singapore, but possibly the other territories that Singtel's in. We see the potential to replicate that deal in other Asian territories. So you know, we've got discussions going with, you know, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines. I mean, there's a lot of scope for expansion up there, and that's really where the engine of growth is going to come from. So 5 years, Asia.
Excellent. So what would be your advice to a 30-something looking at starting up a business today?
It's a really tough one, you know, because in the face of it, you should never ever do a startup, because you're likely to fail. It's painful. It's potentially very expensive, but it's generally worth it. I mean, most entrepreneurs I know, even though it's a real roller coaster that you can go on, enjoy it. You know, and it's a mentality rather than a state. I mean, it's, you know, some go into it looking for money. They're probably going into it for the wrong reasons. You know, money's a yardstick and a great outcome. But if you're going into it just thinking you're going to be vastly wealthy, you're probably not going to make it. You need to go in thinking, I'm going to make a difference, and I enjoy creating something from nothing. And that's what gets me up in the morning, and most of the entrepreneurs I know are the same. You know, look, the money's great, and if you can get a big outcome, then terrific. It's a tough journey. It is a tough journey in Australia in particular. You know, and look, in terms of tangible advice, build a network. You know, that's good for finding founders, for finding investors, for getting a bit of a support network. Because most people you ask about it will say, nah, it's never going to work. It's a crazy idea. You know, ask your mum, she'll say, go and get a real job with someone who's got a training scheme. That's what mine always used to tell me. And I'm probably glad I didn't take that advice. You know, and look, and you got to be in it for the long run. Do not expect that, and also don't expect that you're going to be the next Twitter or Snapchat or WhatsApp. I mean, you read about those, but it just, you know, 99.99% of all startups will not become one of them. Objective should be to build a sustainable business. If you drive for profitability, that's a good outcome. You know, build it and they will come is an attitude that may work in Silicon Valley. It's tougher to make work here. You know, so here I think you need to go faster for profitability. You know, sometimes, especially consumer startups, profit's seen as a bit of a, ooh, we don't need any of that. Now that might work in Silicon Valley where you've got Sequoia behind you and you've run 4 startups already which have been successful, and you know how to do it. But if you're a startup here, get some revenue.
Yeah, right. Ian, thanks very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Thank you for joining Decoding the New Economy.